Welcome to Speed Talk Live, which isn't really live, but a poorly produced podcast where we talk about NASCAR and all things racing. And occasionally we have a special guest or two, when we can get them to show up. Sit down, strap in, pull those belts tight. Speed Talk Live is on the air.
Pace car is in. Green flag, green flag, green flag.
Welcome everybody, we're back another week, Speed Talk Live. Coming out of Homestead-Miami Speedway, we got to talk about that. We got a chance to talk to Kyle Larson about going for it. We also preview Martinsville and a whole bunch of other junk this week. With me, as always, Owen Johnson, Associate Editor, CupScene.com. And I guess I better tell you, I'm Greg Engel, the Editor-in-Chief, CupScene.com. All right, let's go across the pond to England. Here is Owen Johnson, Associate Editor, CupScene.com. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Greg. It's always great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. The chaos that goes on behind the scenes and the schedules and everything. We work it out somehow. Also, we work out the microphone. Last week, let me tell you something weird that's happened. I've got this microphone, right? And I love it. It works great. The problem was I didn't have it hooked up last week. I didn't know that. So when I went to trying to produce this thing, which is poorly produced anyway, it sounded like really hollow. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then I realized I didn't have that mic hooked up. Well, that wouldn't have been a problem because I've got another boom mic over here. And I thought, well, that one's hooked up and it's off to the side and it was picking it up. No, that wasn't hooked up. It wasn't even plugged in. Neither one was plugged in. So it's the mystery of, I don't even know where the hell this microphone is that's recorded all this, but hey, I'm pretty sure I got the right microphone hooked up this week. Hold on, let me check just to make sure.
I got you loud and clear.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So there you go. Since it's confirmed, we got that junk settled. All right, let's dive into this. I was at Homestead-Miami Speedway. I will not hark about the fact that I was stationed there at Homestead Air Force Base for 10 years. My wife and I live down there, love it down there. I'm very biased towards it. The track itself is only a couple miles from where we used to live until Hurricane Andrew decided otherwise. So I always love going down to Homestead-Miami Speedway. But the race this time was probably one of the best I've ever seen there. It was one for the highlight reels, especially those last final laps. And normally I would overlay a screenshot or a little video of the actual finish. You can find it on YouTube because NASCAR, in their infinite wisdom, has decided they don't want us showing any in-race footage, despite the fact that hundreds of other YouTubers do it and get away with it for some reason. I guess maybe they don't like me. Maybe I'm still on their Christmas card list, I guess. But so you can go find that, but it was an amazing finish. First, you think Hamlin's going to win. Then you think Blaney's going to win. No. Reddick running his own line up against the wall. Final lap, gets by Blaney, wins the race. It was just a fantastic race all the way start to finish from beginning to end. And I loved every second of it. And Blaney, in my mind, nearly won it. But I know you watched it from across the pond. What are your thoughts on the race itself on Sunday?
Well, what a race, really. I think the consummate playoff race with all the playoff drivers really in contention. I mean, Logano had a bit of struggles throughout the night, but he's already locked in, so that didn't really matter much. But a lot of the playoff drivers really up in contention at the front of the field, and you just have to feel for some of them, especially Blaney, who really nearly won it, was leading coming into those last corners, and then just left the door open for that amazing move on the wall by Reddick. A lot of good racing from the playoff drivers.
And, another playoff driver that just I was agonizing for was Kyle Larson. He had blown a tire earlier. It was the second time it's happened to him in the playoffs. He overcame that. He was racing for the lead in the final laps. I thought, man, if he could pull this off, what a great story that would be. He was set up for at least a good finish, if not the win. And he pushed it a bit too far. So I had a chance to talk to him today because going for it and trying to make things happen and pushing that envelope is something he's known for. And I got a chance to talk to Kyle Larson who was out grocery shopping, by the way. So we appreciate him coming out of the grocery store to talk to us. And I talked to him about, and I asked him about taking chances. You don't want to be in a position where you have to go for it, right? You made an amazing recovery from the flat tire, and there's nothing you can do about that. When you have those go for it moments, though, and you push that, that's kind of signature move to me that you have is the ability to go for it when you need to. But when it doesn't work out, like it happened Sunday, when maybe push a little too far, it seems to me that those moments since I've watched your career have become less and less where you do push too far and step over the line. Do you consider those moments like that when it doesn't work out to this day as learning moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think every moment is a learning moment, you're right? Like good, bad, whatever. Average, like you learn from every lap of every race and every move you make throughout, your whole career. Yeah, I mean, Sunday, I don't really know, like I shouldn't have been battling for the win. Like I know it's hard to tell, when you're watching, but like the underbody is destroyed from the flat. So I mean my car was driving terribly until, I got against the wall and just was risking my car for the next 100 and well shoot probably 220 laps. So yeah, I mean it's just I'm sure I'm bummed that, I went for a gap and I spun and lost my shot to win. It's happened to me a number of times in my career. But at the same point, like I'm proud of myself because, I stayed mentally in it to that point to put myself in position to win. And I'm not sure if there's many other drivers that could have done it. So like I'm happy that I was able to do that. Sure, I would have liked that move to work, but it's just tough. And I think it's really easy to look back and fans or even myself look back and be like, well, you should have just waited. You should have waited a lap or two. Like that sounds so easy. But these cars are so difficult to drive in traffic and it's really hard to get within, 5 car lengths of somebody once you're deep into a run and all that and running near the wall. So that's as close as I had gotten. And I think you have to try to take advantage of those moments. Obviously now looking back and it not working out, sure, I would like to, play things a little differently and maybe, I do have another opportunity. But if not, like I don't know if I could live with myself at the same point, like, oh, if I was too patient and thought that I would have a time and then I didn't have time. So yeah, it's just racing and yeah, my aggression is good a lot of times and it maybe gets me in trouble sometimes.
So then he was asked about exactly his mindset and what went through his mind during that move that ultimately cost him a shot at the win.
Um yeah, I mean I remember like the center of 1 and 2, I seen the 12, he kind of had to turn down off the top. So yeah, I mean I'm already thinking about entry of turn 3 and initially, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll be able to run the bottom and clear him. But as the run was coming so fast down the backstretch, I thought at first maybe I could kind of push the 3 ahead and I could run side by side with the 12. And then I got to the 3 a little bit too late, but I was already outside the 12. So then I'm kind of like I had said in other interviews, I'm hoping that maybe Austin would run off the wall and give me the clean lane, against the wall. But he continued to run his line, and then yeah, so then I'm just gambling at well, really the whole time you're kind of gambling, but then I'm gambling that I'm gonna have enough space to kind of shoot that gap and clear the 3 without getting the wall and run a good corner and exit outside of the 12, but I never got to that point. So yeah, that's kind of what was going through my head. Some people maybe play it differently, but That's what I thought in the moment was my best opportunity to get clear to the lead quickly and not battle and abuse my tires and get stuck racing the 12. So um, I stand by my decision. I know it didn't work out, but in the moment, I think I was making the move that was going to get me to the lead the quickest way possible.
All right, so Larson is now below the cut line. I think Bell seems like a shoe in terms of points, and I think it could come down to William Byron and Larson on points if neither one wins. We're going to talk about Martinsville in a minute because I'll be there too. Looking forward to that. But like we said, this race is a classic. It'll be on the highlight reels for many years to come. And look, it was the quintessential playoff race. A lot on the line, drivers trying everything they can to win. The racing throughout was fantastic. There were no long stretches of any kind of single car lines, anything like that. Here, and the fans started talking about this, and I kind of agree with them right after the race. Look, this was the championship race from 2002 to 2019. And then they decided to move it to Phoenix. Now, look, I'm all for Phoenix. I love Phoenix. Phoenix, I did my residency for 2 years out there. Great people. It's a great place to go, but it just has a different vibe in Miami. It's with the neon colors and the flamingos and the Miami Vice throwback. I mean, to me, Miami just has a different vibe than anywhere else we go. Look, I may be biased, like I said, because I used to live there. My favorite restaurant in the whole world, Garcia's Fish House on the Miami River, is my go-to place. I always go there for stone crabs. I went there Friday night and had a blast. I actually ended up, because I was by myself, I sat at a table of oddly 10 officers from the Atlanta Police Department who happened to be in Miami recruiting at a convention. But anyway, we had a blast. The owner's son, Jay, came around and said hi. And it's just, I love that place. And I love Miami itself. And I think it's just got a different vibe and a different, feeling than any of the mile and a half for sure because of the progressive banking. But the area itself, I think, is just, it's amazing. And you know what, Owen, we need to get you to Miami because you've been to several tracks now. You've never been to Miami, and we're going back in March. So maybe we'll see if we can get you down there sometime.
I would love to, especially with what you talk about with all that vibe. And I can't speak to the vibe necessarily, but for that to add to that conversation about where I'd like the championship, I completely agree with you. I think Miami is a great place for it. It's a great track. This car, especially this new next gen car, races so well in the mile and a half, and it put on a great show at Miami this past weekend. And I really don't understand why NASCAR takes its second biggest race of the year, the race that it can choose what facility it goes to, and puts it on any track that isn't a mile and a half with the car we have right now. We've got a great race at Kansas earlier this year, great racing at Homestead again. I think a mile and a half should be the championship, and Homestead is a great contender, just put on a great show.
Yeah, and like I said, the vibe is just certainly totally different than anywhere else we go on the circuit. And even the drivers, some of the drivers say that. So yeah, I think the mile and a half is the showcase for this car. And I think a mile and a half track needs to end the season. And I think Miami would be the perfect place for it. Look, it's not going to happen next year. The schedule's already out. We know we're going to Phoenix next year. But look, when I was there was talk about ISC, which de facto NASCAR, who now owns the track and bought it from Ralph Sanchez, is going to be making some infrastructure upgrades. Well, that's got everybody talking because if they're going to make some infrastructure upgrades, then perhaps we could see it back as the finale in 2026. And look, even without the infrastructure upgrades, it would be fine because, like I said, we hosted it down there from 2002 to 2019. I went to most of those, and it was a great time. And the crowds were fantastic. Speaking of the crowds, one of the garbage websites, and I call them garbage because all they are is they exist for page views, and they put out these sensationalist headlines, and they take different quotes from different drivers and different fans, and they try to make them something they're not. One of the things that they said this weekend or after the race was that fans were in an uproar about empty seats. Well, I hate to tell you guys, it wasn't an announced sellout, so I can't sit here and say it was a sellout, but I specifically stood in the press box on Sunday afternoon before the race, and looked out over the crowd, and I saw very, very few empty seats. It was jam packed there. Everybody was having a great time. The only reason there might have been some fewer people than possible is the Miami Dolphins were playing up the road, so that could have siphoned some of the crowd away. But from what I saw from my vantage point, man, the place was packed. And I also know it was packed because 2 hours after the race, when I was driving home, I ran into traffic. And I can't always say I do that at Homestead, even in the championship years. So, yes, you garbage websites, you are wrong. There was plenty of people there, plenty of great racing, and empty seats my ass. No, it didn't happen. Look, let's wrap up some other stuff. Austin Hill scored an emotional win in the Xfinity Series to lock his way in to the Final Four. And it was emotional because he's never been in the Final Four, and it puts it in there for RCR, which there was a time when we couldn't be able to say that. Now RCR is going to have a representative in the Xfinity Championship. And Justin Allgaier announced on Saturday, I think it was Saturday, it might have been Friday, that he's signed a multi-year extension with JR Motorsports. Good for him. I'm glad. I think that's a good matchup there, and I hope Justin can not only break through to the Final Four, but have some many more chances in the future. Look, Grant Enfinger, who's one of my favorite drivers of all time, great guy. I've spent some time with him. He won the trucks race. It was a second win in the round, which leads me to wonder: is he the favorite to win it all? What do you think about that, Owen?
Well, I think he has to be kind of the favorite coming in just with the amount of wins he scored this round. And if momentum means anything, we'll see if that'll carry him through Phoenix. But I'm still a little bit cautious with that team just because it's the first year for that CR7 Motorsports crew to get any wins at all. And the first two wins came in these last two races. We know they can get it done now, but can they get it done at the highest level with the most pressure in a championship race? It's a young team, we'll see, but I know Enfinger's a talented driver, and clearly they can build a fast truck to get to victory lane. So he has to be the favorite, but I wouldn't say it's a runaway favorite.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. Either way, I'll be there in Phoenix for that race, and we'll see if we're right. And when it comes down to it, in just 2 weeks, I can't believe the season already it's only 2 weeks. Took 2 weeks left. Other notes from that truck race: Matt Mills and Connor Jones got together. Matt Mills was hospitalized for a couple of days. He's fine now. He's out. But Connor Jones didn't say anything at the track. He was approached. He didn't say anything at the track, later posting an apology on social media, which some people accused him of being AI generated. He was parked for 2 laps during the race by NASCAR, and then posted that apology later. And people kind of criticized him on the internet for saying that the apology was AI generated. What do you think about that? You're a young guy. This AI stuff is this part of your life, man. What do you think about that?
Definitely. I think it's super difficult to tell with those AI systems whether they're accurate. There's a lot of false positives on those sort of systems. I don't trust AI to necessarily write the full letter, much less do I trust it to pick it up if it actually has. So I'm not necessarily going to accuse or Connor Jones of doing that. But I do think it was a really needless and aggressive move. He said, we've been racing really hard on track. I don't like how he's racing me. That's not an excuse to turn him into the wall in really any scenario. We've talked a lot this season about driver retaliation and wrecks, and I feel like pretty consistent on that. Never a good solution to play with 2-ton race cars, putting drivers into the wall.
Yeah. Speaking of that, go ahead. Finish.
Well, I think it's not a good look for Jones, he's a really talented short track racer, and he's been given a great opportunity in the Thor Sport 66 truck. But that's a fast track to throw that opportunity away, making moves like that and getting the NASCAR fan base against you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure he'll be hunted down, him and Matt both, this weekend at Martinsville, and I'll be among the hunters. I can assure you of that. So we'll see. That story may be one that's still ongoing. By the way, in truck news, Brett Moffitt, the 2018 Truck Series champion, will be back this week at Martinsville, driving the Hettinger Racing Chevy. Who's Hettinger Racing, you say? Well, that was a new team formed by the remains of Brett Holmes Racing, which shut down on October 4th and then announced October 25th before Homestead, when we noticed that there was no BHR entry that they were shutting down. That they've been brought out by Chris Hettinger, and it's now Chris Hettinger Racing. You can read all about it, the new team and the quotes and everything, and my story posted over at Forbes. So we'll see how that works for them. Brett will be back at Martinsville on Friday, and then he'll be also entered at Phoenix. And then the team will move forward in 2025. Who their driver will be, who knows? And wrapping up the Miami weekend, I also had a chance to sit down and talk to Kyle Busch, which is always a good time. I love just talking to him, and we talked about being kind of the other guy, not one of the playoff drivers this year. I know it's an uncomfortable position for him, but you know what? He relishes it and takes it to heart. He's actually had a sponsorship with Straight Talk Wireless, which was the sponsor of the race entitlement sponsor this weekend. So that's a big deal, not being a playoff driver and yet having that sponsorship. And they had a really cool promotion where you could win 100 years of cell service for your family, which I think is really crazy. But anyway, you can read my article over on Auto Week about Kyle Busch. So look for that. Listen, a report says that NASCAR is in talks with Saudi Arabia, and really kind of weirdly, NASCAR declined comment, which means they didn't deny it, but it could be an opportunity not for a points race, but could be for like an off-season demo like they did in Suzuka back in 96, 97. But we could see Cup cars racing in the desert, which I think would be kind of cool, weird, a weird vibe. So I know you got some thoughts on that, Owen.
Well, it'd be at this really new, interesting facility that Saudi Arabia is putting together, primarily for Formula One. Among some other interesting features, it features a 20-story up banked corner, which should be some interesting camera angles, if nothing else, during the racing. But I think one thing that Adam Stern pointed out was that NASCAR's tried to put together a Middle Eastern series in the past, similar to the Canada Pinty series, the Mexico series, the Brazil series. So that could be something that this is starting the continuation of. Races at maybe the Dubai Autodrome, the Jeddah Circuit, Yas Marina, and Abu Dhabi. There's a lot of good racetracks out there. I think it could be an interesting series, and I would like to see NASCAR expand its worldwide presence. I would be tuning in.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that makes more sense than sending a bunch of Cup guys over there for a demo race. And you're right. I think that's something we could see. I think Saudi Arabia has one advantage when it comes to the sports world, and that is a lot of money. They throw a lot of money at stuff just to get noticed, and that's fine. But that does make sense that we could have a Middle Eastern series similar to the Pinties and the European series. So more to come on that. But I just thought it was interesting that NASCAR didn't deny it. They just declined comment, which is usually something is going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. All right, National Motorsports Press Association, of which I am a proud member and award winner. We have the most popular driving award is open now for voting. You can go to NASCAR.com. And if you're a sponsor, I mean, not only do we need a sponsor here, but the NMPA could use a sponsor for that. The sponsor we had for many years decided not to move forward. So we could use a sponsor over there. So holla if you have any opportunity to do that, but go and vote for the NASCAR most popular driver over on NASCAR.com. The voting is open now, and who will get it? I don't know. But you know what? One thing I do know is that after I go to Martinsville this weekend and Phoenix, I will be going to the NASCAR banquet on November 22nd. I'll be there for that. And we got the Myers Brothers Award. We got some other stuff going on. Hey, I'm looking forward to that. I don't normally go to banquets, the NASCAR Awards banquet, because by that time I'm pretty much done with the season. But looking forward to that. That'll be my first visit to the one in Charlotte, which they moved it to this year after being in New York and Vegas and Nashville. I think it belongs in Charlotte, and I'm glad it's there. All right, let's talk about Martinsville. Denny Hamlin, who is below the cut line, will be one of those in a desperation mode. Blaney won there last year, and he could do so again, but Kyle Larson is also below the cut line, 7 points below. So I asked him about Martinsville. And heading to Martinsville, obviously, you talked about being 7 points below the cut line, but you got 4 poles there, including in the spring. and you won there a couple of years ago. That must have give you a lot of confidence heading there for a chance to not just to win, but have a decent enough run to point your way in.
Sure. I mean, I have a lot more confidence than I would have had there 5 years ago. Being this close to the cutoff, I feel like since joining Hendrick, it's actually been one of my better tracks. Maybe not for points scored, but you know, finish wise, we've won. We've finished second a couple times, maybe finished in the top five, maybe one or other two times, and yeah. So I have confidence going there, but I just haven't had like dominating speed there, and I think my car is still much better than I am there, but where guys like Denny, Blaney lately, Chase, even and William, they've had dominating speed, and those are all the guys that I'm going up against. So, I think we'll have a good car, a great car, and we'll have a good shot. It's just it's a tough place, and it's not a place that's ever really been comfortable for me, even with the success that we've had. It's a tough, really tough track for me.
And heading to Martinsville below the cut line, how will Larson balance points racing versus going for it all for the win?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm just gonna try to execute, you know, my my job the best that I can, and not, make mistakes and keep ourselves in the hunt. I'm confident that our pit crew is gonna do a great job, and I don't think there's many other teams that do as good of a job as we do with pit strategy. So, yeah, I think I've got a great team that can execute on all those areas. But yeah, as you mentioned, I think, yeah, it's tough because, yeah, you look at all the guys that are left in the playoffs. Like, I feel like the two teams that probably would have the least chance of winning at Martinsville have already won in the round of eight. So yeah, it comes down to Bell, William, Chase, Denny, and myself. I think I'm forgetting maybe one other person, but everybody that's left in the round of eight is really good at Martinsville, and probably going to be I would say it's one of those six that are going to win the race. So it almost makes it feel like it's a must win in a lot of ways. But yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. I think the fans will be in for a treat, and it's definitely gonna come down to the end like it always does. So hopefully we're a part of that group that's fighting for the win, and or at least fighting for a great points day, and see how it all plays out.
All right, what are your thoughts looking forward to this weekend at Martinsville?
Well, I think my biggest thought is just what the racing is going to look like. We have a unique tire setup now. So the right side of the car is going to feature the option tire that was raced at Richmond, a little bit higher wearing, higher speed tire. And the left side of the car is going to be a unique compound developed exclusively for Martinsville for this race. So it's going to be something completely new for the teams. There's a 45-minute practice session for all of them to figure it out, but it's going to look different. And I really do hope, I was at Martinsville in the spring, I really do hope they can improve some of the racing. That track needs some passing opportunities. That track needs a little bit of racing improvement. I think the tires did a really good job at Richmond. I think obviously the racing overshadowed it like we talked about, but the tires were also fantastic. So I'm looking forward to something like that again. Now, who's going to get it done? As Hendrick reminded us, I think in the spring race, it's their track. The team has really been incredibly successful at Martinsville in the past, and they did it again in the spring with William Byron. I think it's one of their drivers again, and really, I think it's Byron again. But Larson has a good shot, and Chase Elliott also has a great shot.
And you reminded me of something talking about tires. I haven't seen a big deal with tires other than what I call the Bristol mistake, which was a happy accident. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how that works this weekend, because you're right. Hopefully it'll improve the racing. Speaking of tires, though, they did test wet weather tires at Homestead-Miami this weekend or on Monday. And by all reports, that's good. So could we see wet weather tires on a 1.5-mile track? My God, that would be amazing. We'll never see them on a super speedway, but then again, I said before, we'd never seen them on a 1.5 miles. But they did give him a test, so look for that in the future. Now, you mentioned Hendrick. He does own Martinsville. They always do well there. And like you said, Byron won there in the spring. It's the 40th anniversary for the Big H. But you know what? I think Hamlin will be a monster. He's going to be a bully. Stop at nothing to make it to the final round. He lost out on the final round the last 2 years, including the now famous Chastain Hale Melon move. I think Hamlin wants to join Reddick and make Michael Reddick in the final four and make Michael Jordan happy, which obviously he would be if he had his buddy and team co-owner in with a member of their team. So I think Denny Hamlin is going to be the monster there, and the points are going to come down to Bell or Byron and Larson. And I think Larson's smart enough to get it done. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to going there. I'll be there Friday and all the way through the weekend. You will be over in England, swimming, right?
I will be swimming this weekend, yes.
And studying law and becoming the smartest lawyer on the planet. So, all right. That's all the time we got today. We're gonna get Owen in a pool, and I'm gonna I don't know, sit on my fat butt and do nothing. But get ready to go to Martinsville, and then we'll follow up next week with that. And then it's off to Phoenix for the last race of the season. And part of me looks forward to that, especially this time of the year. But part of me says, I wish there was more. But we'll see how I feel on Sunday night after Phoenix when it's all over and we pop the beers, which we do, kind of a tradition. So anyway, have a great week. We appreciate your support. Like and subscribe, comment down there and tell us what you want to see, what you don't want to see, and how bad I produce this thing. And hopefully the microphone is working. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening to Speed Talk Live. For questions or just to tell us how bad our production is or to leave other feedback, leave us a comment below. For all the latest NASCAR news, visit www.cupscene.com. Until next time, peace out and let's go racing.
All right, there's the checkered flag. Great job, driver.